What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It's the King Koopa. Thanks for stopping by. So we are working on our little RCSB street truck today, and we are going to be adding a light bar in the grill while using factory fog light harness and switch and everything, so it looks just like stock. You could use this if you are adding fog lights in your truck, or if you wanted to run 2 light bars, or if you wanted to run pod lights. It's a pretty straightforward modification. It only takes probably a couple hours. The longest part is probably fabricating the brackets for the light bar. So if you are using this modification to add factory fog lights, it's not going to take you long at all. I do have the SS bumper, so I did not want to add the fog lights in the air ducts. So that is why I opted for a light bar behind the grill, and it's going to be a little bit brighter in my opinion. This whole modification cost me under $100. The light bar was the most expensive part. I will also leave a link in the description below of everything I bought: light bar, relay, and the switch. I have been a little busy lately. We've been remodeling the third bay in the garage, so that way we can fit a project car in there. So we put concrete, insulation, plywood, redid all the wiring, a whole bunch of stuff. I'm going to be making another YouTube video of that, so customizing the garage. We're going to put some chain hoist plates up in here. But a quick overview of the modifications to come to the little street truck. So we went to the pick apart, and we did find a pair of leather, fully electric heated bucket seats with a center console, so that's going to be getting swapped into the little street truck. We also have a new third brake light, and we have the SS air duct that we still need to get painted. And a HD hood is coming up here soon, so stay tuned for that. If you could do me a favor, scroll down, hit that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. It would give me some encouragement on some new car parts and my vehicle addiction. Now, enough of me talking, let's get straight to the install. First thing we're going to do, pop the hood, come into the engine bay. We're going to flip our fuse box cover over, and right here, 15 amp fog light fuse and the fog light relay, the big gray block and that little small fuse right there. My truck already had the fuse installed. It's that little yellow one right there, so we had to buy the relay. We're just going to stick it in that block and push it in. Boom, that part's done. The next step we're going to do is install our factory fog light switch, just like this one. The fog light switch is on the bottom, and the third brake light cab light is on the top. To remove and install this switch, you're going to rotate the key over, pull your steering wheel down, pull the stick all the way down, and now this bezel has a bunch of snap rings or tabs that hold it in place. And then you're going to have to bend it up and around the gauge cluster and the steering column, just like that. You now have full access to remove the switch. There's a little spring tab on bottom, and there's a spring tab on top holding the switch in, so you're going to have to take a small flathead screwdriver and push that little tab up. Here's the back of the switch. Now you take a little flat screwdriver to push that tab up. And there's your switch. To reinstall the new switch is the exact opposite way. New switch. Snaps right in place. Now it's time to reinstall the bezel. Now we have installed the fuse, relay, and the switch in the dash, so the next thing that I want you to do is get up underneath the front end of your truck and see if you already have the fog light harness ran from the fuse box to where the fog lights would be. So it's just going to be 2 plugs, one on each side, driver side and passenger side. Most likely going to have a purple and black wire going to it, and it's just going to be clipped up with a tiny little metal tab. If you have those and found those, great. That's saved you a lot of time. If you do not have those, do not panic. It's just going to add a couple extra steps, and we're going to cover those. So let's check out where they're at on the truck. This is under the passenger side, and you can see the front body mount right here. Here is that harness that we were talking about. There's a little metal clip holding it in place, and there it is. So there's our fog light harness running to the passenger side. That is a purple and black wire, and if you're installing factory fog lights, that would go right here. You just run this harness right up over here, plug it into the back of your light, and you're good to go. For our light bar, we are going to be using the driver's side. We are going to cut this plug off and run our own connector on there. If you found the fog light connectors on the bottom side of your truck, that means your harness has already been ran, and that is awesome. You can skip forward about 10-20 seconds because this next part is going to be for the people that did not have that harness in there. So you're going to have to add your own harness. There are also aftermarket companies online that will sell you the fog light harness that plugs directly into the back of the fuse box. That is a great option too. But if you're trying to save money and be on a budget, then you're going to have to get your own wire, and you're going to have to get your connectors that plug into the back of the fuse box, and you're going to have to run it down to the fog lights your own way. So let's check out where it is located at on the bottom side of the fuse box. To get to the bottom side of the fuse box, we're going to pop the hood. You are going to have to remove this fender support bar. There are 2 bolts here, and there are 2 bolts here. Once that is removed, you're going to take the cover over the fuse box off, which has these quick little snaps. One there, and there's also one there, and this whole entire piece will slide up and off the top of the fuse box. There's going to be a couple tabs on each side of this fuse box panel that you can unclip, and you will be able to rotate the fuse box up a little bit and over, and then you will take a 7mm socket to remove the green block on the bottom side of the fuse box. You will have to remove the little blue locking pin out of the green block, which will secure the pin in place. Once you install the pin, you can reinstall the locking pin. Now that you have your fuse box back in place, you have your wires coming out the bottom side of the fuse box. You can run them inside the protective wire coating all the way down to the front part of the frame. If you do not want to do that, you can also buy your own wire protectant and run the harness down yourself. Now that we have our fog light harness and the connectors down at the front of the frame where they need to be, it's time to install the light bar and get them connected. To make our brackets to mount the light bar, we have this sheet metal. O-metal, you could bend it back and forth a bunch of times. This is non-O-metal, so you have to be careful when you make your bends, because once you get these past 90, they start to get a lot of hairline fractures inside here. It becomes really brittle, and this end can snap off. So how we did this first bracket is we bent this first angle right here at about a 30, and this one's about at a 60 to complete a 90-degree angle. Here's the passenger side bracket. We're midway through bending it. So we cut it. It's about 1.25 inches wide. That's about 10 inches long. So we made the first bend, which this is going to go on that side. But for the driver's side, there's already pre-existing bolt and threaded stud inside here that holds this little intercooler bracket. So we bent that at a 30. We bent this part at a 60 to get us a 90-degree bend. We drilled our holes, but of course we measured up and down and how close we want it to the grill, because we left this extended about to here. So we could have moved the light bar easily out or moved it closer. Drilled our hole, ground the corners off, and we also notched this out right here so when the light bar is flat that the bracket doesn't cut the cable. And when the light bar is sitting flat across, there's only about 2 inches of the transcooler that's being blocked, so we still have 3 inches above. So I don't think that should be an issue, but we are getting a trans temp gauge put in the gauge cluster, so we can actually do a road test on that. We're halfway through mounting it. We have one bracket completely done, and we did get it connected. Right there is our connection from the factory fog light harness up into the light bar. And for those connections, what we used is a Deutsch connector, which I believe is how it's pronounced. That's how online the guy pronounced it. But these are probably about $8 a connector, and they're actually really nice. It takes these little metal pins, so you slide your wire inside there, and you use this crimping tool, and it crimps that down on the wire. So then you just shove them in the back of the connector with this little spade clip, locks it in place, and then you can connect them together. And nice thing about these is if you ever have to take it apart, you just pull the spade out. There's little tabs in there that lock the pins in place, and pull the wires out the back. So if you need to go to more wires into your harness, you can just go with a bigger connector. So we use that. So that's a really nice connector. I'm absolutely going to do those all the time now. They are a little expensive though. So if I ever have to take the light bar off, we'll just disconnect this connector, undo the 2 bolts on each side, and it'll pull out. Now that the light bar is connected and everything is plugged in, we can test her out, make sure that she works. And I'd say it's definitely pretty bright. For the passenger side bracket, we could have used a sheet metal screw to tap inside here, but bouncing on the road, that light bar is going to be pretty heavy, and I didn't want it to widen the hole out and then the light bar fall out while I was driving down the road, and then would bend that bracket. You know, you never know what could happen. But so we're going to use a stainless steel bolt. It's a 1/4 inch thick, and we did have to cut it down just a little bit, but I trust my abilities pretty well, and we drilled a hole through and through this backside, and I wouldn't recommend this for the average person just because you have to know what's behind your target, and you'd eventually, drill into the backside of your radiator, and then you just create a big issue for yourself. But I trust my abilities pretty well and drilled through both sides of here without touching the radiator, so now we can just slide the nut on the backside with a wrench and it won't touch the radiator, so we're all good. So let's get this mounted up. We'll bend this 60-degree bend right here, and then we'll have to do some more measuring to know where to drill the hole for our light bar. The light bar is mounted now. We checked the level with our old school level. We checked it with our new school level, and she's on there looking pretty good. The brackets obviously are not the same, so if you want to stack two pieces of metal, cut them out at the same time, it might not work for you. Anyways, we got it worked. It's all measured, it's centered, but there is one issue. It's not super sturdy, so while you're going to be going down the road, might be kind of hard to see that, but you can see it just vibrating around a lot. So I was like, well, let's see if we can mount another bracket onto there somehow. So we took out our old piece of sheet metal and figuring out what we can do, and then boom, right here, completely forgot about these. These were sitting on the bench, and these are actually the brackets from the light bar. So basically what we're going to do, we're going to take this bolt out, sandwich these two brackets together, and we're going to drill a hole and run another bolt through there, so on both sides. And the grill where it mounts, you can see I kind of sharpied it out right there, so I know that the grill is not going to be in the way and affected by it. And this is actually bent pretty close to where we're not going to have to force the light bar forward or backwards to get this to line up. So it's almost perfect, but we are going to have to grind out the bottom of the driver's side bracket just a little bit, so that way it's not rubbing on the cable, and we don't want to cut that. We got both brackets mounted on each side. This side was notched out, and we added a little wire coating protectant just to make sure that won't rub through. But as you can see before, it had a lot of vibration to it, but as soon as you grab that, it just stops it right away. We used the spare bolts that came with the light bar to mount those tabs, and as you can see now, it is super sturdy. Like, even me shaking it barely even moves. So I think it's a lot better now. Definitely happier with it now. There's the look at it from the outside. And let's check out the clearance on there inside. So we have about 1 inch of space in between our trans cooler. We have about 1.5 inches in front of the light bar to the grill. And same on the other side. We're inside the truck now, pointed at the garage doors. We are a full truck length away. My white truck's 21 feet, 21 and a half, I think, plus the space on both ends. So we're about 25 feet away from the garage door. So that is just my regular headlights. And here is the fog light bar. That about wraps this video up for the install of the light bar with the fog light harness. I hope this helped you out. If you guys have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. I'll get back to them as soon as possible. And please hit a like on this video if you liked it and it helped you out. And please hit that subscribe button. I'd appreciate it. Stay tuned for some new mods coming up on the little truck. Also, the project car is going to be filling up this garage here soon. So that's going to be some new upcoming content. Hope you guys are having a great day, and good luck on your fog light install.